Just as he was gazing at the girl he'd spent a wild night with, a squad of police suddenly kicked down the door. They stormed in and cuffed him on the spot. Cops searched the place and found a stash of drugs and weapons, enough to charge him with multiple felonies. But the man stayed calm, even smiled. He was confident his father would bail him out. What he didn't expect was that his father, in order to protect the family's business, cut a deal with the prosecutor. He was told to plead guilty, and in return they'd try to reduce his sentence to 4 years. Hearing this, his smile disappeared. But with his father's firm pressure, he accepted the plea deal. In court, he openly admitted his crimes, but the judge believed the weapons were used to protect his drug operation and hit him with a 10-year sentence. It was only then that he realized both he and his father had been played by the prosecutor. 7 months into his sentence, the prison guards suddenly took him to the infirmary. Waiting inside were the very prosecutor who'd set him up, and a woman he'd never met. She introduced herself as a special agent. She knew he'd been thriving behind bars, making friends with major gangs, and even running a side hustle, renting out adult magazines. They were impressed by his ability to connect with anyone, anytime. In fact, he barely said a few words, and the agent was already spilling everything. They had a deal for him: transfer to another prison and get close to a suspected serial killer. They believed the man had murdered 14 young girls, but only one body had ever been found. They needed the location of the rest to make the charges stick. But the killer was locked up in a high-security facility, meant for the most dangerous criminals. He refused the offer immediately. That's when the agent added, if he helped them find the bodies, they'd reduce the rest of his sentence. Still, he wasn't convinced, until she told him the killer was appealing his conviction, and if he won, he'd walk free. More girls would die, but to him, it had nothing to do with him. The agent gave him one last chance, a full file on the killer. She told him to think it over. Back in his cell, he couldn't help but open it. What he found inside left him completely shaken.